Hello and welcome to welcome to the YBMB show, and hi Ollie, lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. Those of you who follow us and have been following us for a while, it's quite a lot of you now, will know that I do this live Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mondays we talk about all things to do with the body, and Wednesdays we talk about mindset, Fridays we talk about business. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to have a guest who will help me talk about different aspects of business. And today I'm really happy that I've got Ollie on. I've known Ollie for quite a few years now. And funny how we met actually, but that's another story. I won't take up the time. But we came face to face at a conference very quickly amidst thousands of people. And the funny thing was we were due to have dinner together that night, I think, without knowing it. But anyway, so Ollie has had a very successful business career. He's actually been one of the speakers on my YBMB cohort before. And I always replay his talk because he said such great things about innovation. There was lots of lessons from the talk that he did for us, even though it was only about half an hour long. It was very, very useful and lots of lessons. So I wanted to bring you back on. So pleased to have you on, Ollie, because I know how busy you are with your new venture. And yeah, I thought that we could, one of the themes that we could talk about, besides, you know, wherever we sort of want to take it with regard to lessons from your business history, but to talk about disruption, because you were in what would have been considered to be a fairly sort of ordinary industry, and you came up with something quite extraordinary, which propelled the business forward. So, yeah, so tell us a little bit about your business history, first of all, and then we'll carry on into disruption.
Yeah, so we built a business from around 2000, 2001. I was one of the co-founders at that. And we got involved with specialist cleaning, particular products that we could package, sell to the NHS and other health authorities, or ended up going global in the end. But yeah, it was a great business, but we were always looking how we could be cutting edge, different, bringing innovation, the latest tech into what really was quite traditional, quite conservative industries. We injected a lot of pace into it, a lot of ideas, and innovated. That was key. But it was also how we did it, in terms of we were always brave. We had a discipline. If we felt that we could do something and do it well, we wouldn't be beige around the marketing. We'd go out there. We'd create a real sort of atmosphere, a real height of excitement around what we were doing. And that was constant.
And to give people context, Ollie, tell people, you know, what the business was, because you see what you've just said, even that sounds sort of exciting, cutting edge.
So we had a lot of different businesses under one roof, and we had a healthcare laundry, which sold to private and the NHS, laundry contracts with different hospital groups in the NHS across London and the South East. We also had a product that we had a worldwide patent on, and we sold it into the NHS. That took a long time, a lot of patience, but we become very successful with that. And then eventually, speaking to UKTI and other people who have got interest in export, we started exporting it around the world, and I think it's still selling across the world today. It's a fantastic product, that. And also, it was a product that you sold into places. People wanted it. It was reoccurring income, which is always important, particularly with disruption, but it gave you that cross-selling opportunity. So people who bought our product might then become a laundry client at a later stage.
Well, this is what I loved about your story, because, you know, obviously I know a bit more of the history of it because you explained it to us, but, you know, you started off with doing this sort of laundry service for, and it wasn't just sort of any old laundry, you know, it was that you were washing things where there could not be contamination. And then you discovered this sort of coating for curtains around hospital beds, and you had to get a patent for it and everything. And what I really loved about the story was that the way that you achieve that? And number one, it was disruptive because no one else had done it. But secondly, you achieved it through not standing, although you did do this as well, but not standing in a lab with white coats, sort of doing quiet research. You were actually asking. You were constantly asking.
We were constantly probing. That's right, Angela. We were asking, how could we do it better? How could we improve? So a big question for us at the time was, this is all around the time when hospital-acquired infections were going through the roof. Things like MRSA, C. diff, norovirus, all things like that. And as entrepreneurs, you're always looking to solve problems. Look at something, you think, okay, there's a service that exists for that, but what could we do? What could we come up with that could create a better solution for everyone? Less deaths, less bad publicity for the NHS. You know, it went on and on and on and on. And we become masters at it. We really did. And we become sort of obsessed. Like most of entrepreneurs really get obsessed with things. We did. But we matched, what was key with us, we matched all of that knowledge, all of what we wanted to do, the rollouts, with enthusiasm with the marketing. So we went completely crazy with the marketing. And I was just saying to you, if you've got a product, if you've got a service and you feel that someone's going to benefit from it, there's going to be a whole market out there that you can disrupt, a market which is inefficient. Inefficient markets where you go, right, look at that. And they're everywhere. This whole economy at the moment, particularly post-COVID, is full of industries which need disrupting. So how can we come along and do it better? Don't hold back. Don't be bland. Don't be beige with your marketing. Go for it. You've got no issues. If you've got the right people, and always remember, this is one of the most important things I learned, is you've got to constantly remind yourself that all you can do is your best, and being at peace with that, right? It's the most effective strategy I've encountered, and lots of other entrepreneurs have encountered, for avoiding fear, worry, and over thinking something.
So Ollie, we'll talk about that.
Is a killer. Procrastination is a killer.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit more in a minute. But one of the things that I think really is helpful, what you did, and what helps people to do this, is to see some businesses have become so, and business owners as well, become so insular. They're constantly looking inside, you know, about what they're doing and who said what and how, you know, and what they forget is the client. And what I loved about your story is that you spent so much time looking outwards. You know, what's the problem? How can we resolve it? And then when you think you hit on something, that's when you did all of your marketing. So you so much, and I know you've got another business now, which is about R&D actually, because you're so passionate about it, but you did so much research, and then you did your marketing. So I think that's tip number one for people, is to don't be so insular, look outside, because that's where the answers are.
If we could sit here now, Angela, between us and the next half an hour, come up with industries and products and services we could invent or define and come up with ideas where we're going to disrupt, and we'd be winners after about, you know, maybe a year or so of putting things into place. They would work. We could come up with 10 in the next hour. Honestly. But I would say there's 4 or 5 disciplines to disruption, and these are often overlooked. The first one is you've got to define disruption. Identify and understand what you're disrupting and who will benefit from it. You've got to be clear on that, because if you don't define it, you know, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, Angela. Everyone wants to be a disruptor. Everyone wants to go in and be with this latest tech or latest. But if you don't define what you're trying to do and what problems you're trying to solve and who's going to benefit from it, it's not going to work. No.
So you've got to know because you can't start marketing until you know who you're marketing to and what it is you're saying that's different. You know, so your target client and your USP. So, you know, so why you call it disruption? Disruption, what would you say disruption is? It's just changing the way things are done, improving the way things are done.
Yeah. So you ask 10 entrepreneurs, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
But disruption, and for some people, some entrepreneurs will say, well, disruption for me, I built this thing, a piece of tech, and I sold it for £200 million. at a £200 million valuation. They think that disruption's aligned to money. It's not. It's making improvements. It's bringing goods and services, products into a marketplace where you're improving the efficiencies of old, out of fashion, out of old industries that need disrupting, and you're improving the life and well-being of the people you're selling to, your customers, and that's the prime reason. That's the motivation.
So number one is the definition of it. So you're defining it, and then
number two.
I hope people have got pens, by the way, and taking notes.
On number two, and this is key. You've got to understand your client. You've got to understand the client and the marketplace. Who and why do customers buy from you? Why do they buy from you? If you might be in one of these traditional industries, you might be one of these staid, conservative businesses that aren't, have always looked, as you say, inwards, trying to make internal efficiencies, make things move better, but not understanding what goes on in the client's head. And that's crucial. You can make some changes, but you've got to understand why your products sell. Why are customers motivated to buy? And what would make them buy more?
And how do you find that out?
Talking. Having a really good team around you who constantly talk, listen, talk, ask the right questions, attending every I used to say to our sales guys, always be listening. God gave you 2 ears, one mouth. There's a reason for that. And you've got to take that in. The third thing on disruption is ensure you have sufficient resources. And that's not just money. That's the obvious. People think, you need millions of pounds to disrupt properly. Not always. You need a good team. You need people and money. Money. The three things are important: time, people, and money. And people is the most important, valuable resource to any organisation, particularly a startup or a small organisation looking to scale quickly. People, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
You don't necessarily have to employ those people. They can be part of a peer group. They can be consultants. You can outsource things, because there might be some people listening who are saying, well, that's all very well, but I've just lost my job. I've got an idea, but how am I going to move it forward? I don't have people or money. But you don't have to employ them, do you?
No. We've started Startup to Stand Up. It's a peer-to-peer mentoring group for entrepreneurs. And what I was speaking to Gary and Harry yesterday, were two partners in that, and I'm sort of so impressed how we haven't pushed anything, but these people, being entrepreneurs, naturally inquisitive, asking questions, they're doing different collaborations. This one's doing that one with this, that one's doing that over there with that, and
the power of collaboration and networking.
It's amazing.
People have networks that they don't even realize are such an asset to them, because it's not like you don't have to ask favors. It's just about, I'm trying to do this. It's letting people know, and then seeing if they know someone who might be interested. So anyway, so that's number 3. I just wanted to clear that way in case I don't want people thinking, you've got to have loads of money and people, because you haven't. It's your network around you. Yeah. So number 3.
And also the other thing surrounding that, and what we're finding as well, is with founders, and particularly if they're in a rush, they think it's all about the investment, and they get the investment in.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot more besides that. That's part of it, but it's not the be all and end all.
And it doesn't have to be either. I mean, lots and lots of businesses, they start up, they just basically they bootstrap it, as we call it, bootstrap. They don't get any outside investment in for ages. So you certainly don't need that. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's
the fourth discipline is understand your limitations.
Right.
And the limitations that you just touched upon it. People we haven't got millions of pounds in an investment pot to spend on this, but work on the key strengths. What are the strengths? Now, the weaknesses will be there. You can try and work on them, but work on them strengths. Don't get too preoccupied. Don't allow them weaknesses to stop you, hold you back. And action and implementation's always the key thing. You got to always be moving and move reasonably quickly, and with the right team. And if you belong to groups like Your Body Means Business, Startup to Stand Up, there's always going to be people within them organisations you can talk to, share ideas, bounce ideas off. I wish 20 years ago there was groups like Vistage or Startup to Stand Up, or what you're doing with Your Body Means Business, because I think our journey would have been a lot quicker. I think maybe you would have made less mistakes. There would have been the sort of bolder decisions, the stuff you put back, you would have implemented quicker, for sure, absolutely for sure. And it's also not working in the business; it's working on the business, which is a key point.
Yeah.
Too many people, they get obsessed and become that salesperson. There's nothing wrong with that. Or that accounts, that working in accounts, it's fine. But you've got to have a vision. You've got to have a vision, and you've got to have a perspective of where the business is and where you want it to go. Because without that,
there's a great book on that, actually, the E-Myth. People, or if they're thinking about setting up a structure, the E-Myth or the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber is a really great book to read on that. Okay, and then was there another point?
Not on the disruption card. The fifth one is really when you've got everything. Once you're happy with it, you might be relying on patents, and you've got to take advice when you can launch a product, and you've got to listen to your patent attorneys on that. But once you're in a position where you want to launch, you've got to keep testing the product and service. You've got to keep testing.
Yeah. But
don't hide it under a bushel. Be proud of what you've done, and always promote. Always be promoting. And as I say, be brave in your marketing. And you can see marketeers over the years. There's been some fantastic marketing campaigns, and there's been less so.
When you say brave, do you mean sort of like in these days, does that mean doing lots of lives, or just volume, or does it mean spending money on marketing? What sorts of things?
I mean content.
Yeah.
So if you have got something which is a disruption and is going to really affect an industry or a sector, and for instance, with what we did, we knew that ultimately, for instance, our curtains, they could make the workings of the hospital a lot more efficient. So we got stats from that, and every opportunity we had, we put the stats out there. We reeled them off. We went to trade shows. We were everywhere.
Yeah.
Too much, but always made sure that the USPs were out there, and they were fully explained and articulated well.
Well, you were. I think one of the things that you said before is about being really outlandish with your elevator pitch. So rather than when someone says, "What do you do?" rather than sort of going into the detail of the details of the course or the details of the curtain or whatever, your strapline was "We save lives," which is an outlandish claim. However, you then had all the stats to back it up, because you talk about the examples. And I think that was a really key lesson, is that, if you're creating a marketing campaign, you've got to have that very, very powerful, strapline, and then you can back it up. So, because people think, really, how on earth could you save lives? That's, you make curtains, but hang on a minute, here's the stats. And I think then people really very quickly get it. And I really like that about what you said. One of the things that I notice about you, Ollie, is that, you're very high energy. Like you are keen on...
It doesn't last long. I'll be sleeping this afternoon.
Well, whenever I see you, you're obviously in that sort of frame of mind, because I met you at a marketing conference, actually, where you were, and I've seen you at a lot of events. You're always one of these, like me, always looking to learn and see what's out there and everything. So, what keeps you going like that? I mean, do you think, I'm just quite interested in your sort of day-to-day routine, because a lot of what you say to you sounds quite easy, it's doable. So when you're that way inclined, entrepreneurially minded, let's say, and I'm the same, a lot of what we do and say can seem quite easy and obvious. But, you know, for people that maybe either they've lost a business or they've lost a job, or maybe, you know, their industry has just stopped and they're thinking, you know, right, this is my time now to go and do something else. What shall I do? How do you keep that level of energy and enthusiasm up? Because undoubtedly, despite, you know, even if you follow, everybody follows all of our advice, our mutual advice, they will definitely have setbacks, if not failures. And so how do you sort of conduct yourself, your mindset, your routine, your energy levels? How do you do all that?
My biggest motivation is to improve other people's lives.
Right. You're thinking about other people again, outside, not inside.
Yeah. So it's all about that. Some entrepreneurs are motivated by, you know, Lamborghinis, houses in the south of France, which is all good, but means little. And I think if you build in businesses, they've got to have a very big sense of what's the purpose of the business, what are our values of the business, and I think that's got to come from the top down. Okay, so if the top down are saying we want to not only improve the lives of everyone who works for us, what do you want out of this, and try and get there, achieve the results from. But what do the clients want? What do the customers want? What are customers in that industry at the moment being deprived of? How can we improve? Now, if you think like that, and you think that you're constantly striving to improve the lives of consumers and your staff and everyone around you, that is the big motivator. It's a responsibility to those grey hair.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you go back to that thought though, when you know, when you get all these inevitable aggravations and issues, which I know you had to defend your patent, you were going here and there around the world, you know,
it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people. And something which we did to a degree, but we didn't do it enough, is the right balance, the right team.
Yeah.
And I've recently got involved with a business called the GC Index. I don't know if you've come across them, Angela.
No.
So it's like a psychometric test. It's all about who's in your team. What are they? And there's basically 5 characters in any successful organisation or in a business team. There's a game changer, there's an implementer, there's a strategist, a polisher, and a people maker. So if you get the team together and you understand what motivates them and what they like doing and where they fit into them 5 categories, you're not going to go too far wrong.
Yeah, I have heard that concept actually. They call them different things, like, you know, sometimes they'll call them stars and creators, and there was a book that I was reading just recently, and it was called Surrounded by Idiots, but it was talking about, have you read that book, where it's, you know, you're a blue, a red, a yellow, or a green, and, you know, each one of those types of people, because we're all a type, we just can't understand sometimes why people do what they do, and it's about behaviors. And I think that's what I mean about always learning, because the more awareness you get, because at the end, every single business boils down to your understanding and ability to work with people. I think it doesn't matter what it is, what service, because the end user is a person, you know, anybody who's helping you is a person, and understanding human behavior, and also understanding your own human behavior and what motivates you too. The more I learn, the more I experience, the more I believe that is a key factor in business success. And bravery doesn't have to be gung-ho, I just don't care what happens. It just has to be like a real belief that you're doing the right thing, and a belief in yourself and the people around you as well.
Absolutely. And with the R&D business, before lockdown, we were going into, on average, 5 or 6 businesses a week. And it's weird because I always I go into a business and you look around and you can almost gauge the temperature of their culture, the atmosphere in that business. And you walk into some business and think, wow, this is brilliant. I could work here, or I could build on this, or this is something I would try and replicate, because everyone's happy. They're all pulling, you can see them all pulling in the same direction. There's a positive aura. And then you walk out of there and you go to a business down the road, and it's like you just feel that the atmosphere is completely off. And not many. Once you've got that team, once you've built that team, and you're satisfied that you've got them 5 characters working and working well, the culture of any business, a successful business, needs to be positive. I don't know many businesses that have really strived and done exceptionally well where the culture's negative or off.
And like you say, that's got to come from the top down. And so that starts with the individual themselves. That starts with the individual who starts the business or the team, being exactly like that.
You need advocates. You can't be there all the time. Yeah. You can't be. I remember coming into your business probably 7 or 8 years ago, your office. The atmosphere was electric. And that doesn't happen overnight, Angela. You know that you've taken a long time to create that.
Yeah.
Build that, and making sure you've got the right people to accelerate that, and when you go off for your 2 weeks holiday or whenever in the summer, that atmosphere doesn't drop through the floor, it's difficult. But
what do you think now we're all working more remotely? I mean, do you think that the same thing can be achieved with a remote team? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I spoke to within our business group. We've got this very clever CEO, his founder, brilliant guy. And what he said is he did struggle when at the first lockdown. He noticed people's heads going down, and they're a busy business, and they're doing extremely well, and they're scaling like you wouldn't believe. Their trajectory is so positive. And they're smashing all targets, and this guy's really busy. And I said to him, what did you do? What did you do to correct that? When you see people's heads, he said, very simple. He said, I put a line through the diary, 11 o'clock on a Friday. I think he's got 30 staff. And he would ring every one of them staff on a Friday and have a 20-minute to a half an hour conversation. But it wouldn't be about work. It'd be about how are you? Is your partner okay? Kids okay? Or whatever. What are you doing the weekend? You keeping busy? You keeping up with it? How's the exercise going? All of them things. And he said initially it was like quite hard, but once it got into the second or third or fourth time, and he said the transformation. He could have left that alone. He could have chose to ignore that people's heads were dropping and things were on the downturn. But he did something about it. He didn't know it was going to work, but it's worked brilliantly. You got to watch and listen to people like that. And,
definitely. I mean, so people who are listening to us now, and they getting back to the disruption side, then. They maybe have an idea, they found an idea, they want to get going, they're not quite sure. Would you give them some sort of like pointers? If you had someone in your group, startup stand-up group, and they had an idea but they wanted to get going now, but cautious about investment, cautious about the future. I mean, what would you say? Would you say, well, I won't put words into your mouth. What would be your top tips?
You've got to look at this. You've got to look at them as individuals.
Yeah.
That's number one. So what you don't want is to encourage basically square pegs into round holes. They're not cut out. You'd ask a series of questions, and if from the response, you gauge whether they're right or not. And we've learned.
And a lot of people are not, and there's no sort of shame in not being cut out to be an entrepreneur, because it can be regarded as quite trendy, and actually you can do amazing things, can't you, as an insider, like a number 2, or most entrepreneurs do need a number 2 and a number 3 who are going to help them push everything forward. Yeah,
no shame at all. And even if it means that they might want to bring other people in, people who may fit that type of person who will build the team, who will create the culture, who will, drive the investment or whatever it is to get the build a business off the floor, get moving, get sufficient traction that it's going to be moving in the right direction.
So find those collaborators, those other types of personalities, find some people like that to, yeah.
Absolutely, because I did the GC index. No surprise, I scored very highly on the game changer. But game changers are not necessarily the best people to, be quite headstrong, and they can upset people because they become obsessive, and you need a mix.
Yeah. But
there's no point in an entrepreneur coming to us and say, this is the idea, when you need more than anything else, you need persistence. And if they're not showing any feeling for persistence, or they're flirting, for instance, with going back into employment, because that might, which is fine. There's no shame in that, as you say. You've got to try and work out if they're in it for the long run, if their heart's in it. Because what you don't want is people going off, spending their inheritance or their savings, and it being a complete waste of time and money.
And how long, this is how long is a piece of string type question, but, some people have said this to me, how long does it take to start a business? I'm just going to plug my laptop in, but how long does it take? What would you say? How long, if you're starting a business from scratch, and I know you've done that quite a few times, should you see the seeds of success pretty quickly?
I always look at the
first year. Sorry?
I always look at the typical business cycle, and the business cycle is typically 7 years.
Yeah.
So you get in. You're all passionate. You're getting the product out there. You start getting to year 3 when you're employing people. Things aren't as growing as quickly as you would like, but there's security there. There's obviously money there. There's reoccurring income. There's maybe contracts in place. But year 7, that always comes up as the major resistance point. That's the point where, well, this is getting too much. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to mortgage the house again to get to that level of investment I need to develop this particular product. That's where it really becomes, a lot of people give up at year 7. It's crazy, that business cycle. It's like the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
It always watch that business cycle. And you go on the internet and look at the business. It's typically 1 to 7 years. And if you can break that year 7 resistance level, you're onto something.
Yeah.
And if you come out there
and
not go backwards or plateau, and you can keep going up in that positive trajectory. That's what investors are looking at.
Yeah. It's so true, actually, because one of the things Tony Robbins says, which I love that phrase, he says that most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in a decade.
Yeah.
And so you really, when you start this business, you are in it for the long haul, really. A bit like a marriage. They talk about 7-year itches, must be something similar. They also talk about bodies regenerate in their entirety every 7 years. There's something about that number 7.
It's a key number. That's 7. Yeah. I've had it in businesses I've founded. 7 year was, and you might be doing really well. Year 6, but you've started to plan yourself and all of these things, and you start to see that year 7. It's always, you've got to prepare for it.
Yeah, very interesting. Because if you look at economic cycles, they're about 10 years, aren't they? But it might be something to do with that as well. So really, when we end up sort of concluding, talking through your experiences, my experiences, and obviously you've seen a ton of businesses through your groups that you belong to and that you've started, and so have I. We're concluding in the end, it's about personality types. You're understanding yourself and getting the right people around you. It's about being patient and going in it, knowing that it's going to be the long haul, really. It's not going to be overnight. It very, very rarely is. Any final?
Yeah, the being, understanding yourself, as pointed out earlier, the limitations, strengths and weaknesses, defining that disruption, understanding your clients, what lives, what, if I launch this, what am I improving?
Yeah.
And if it's just about improving your bank balance, maybe you should be looking in other areas. If that's what the motivation is, that's not always the motivation, because good entrepreneurs understand that they want to make a key difference. They're not, money is a huge motivational factor, but it's not necessarily the be all and end all. The team, it's a load of different things. It's discipline, and don't always be seduced because you pick up the papers or go through LinkedIn. You see so many founders who are doing well at the moment because there's exceptional M&A activity, and they're attracting great multiples and businesses which have barely been around for 2 or 3 years, selling for hundreds of millions of pounds. And attracting huge investment. Don't be don't be seduced by all of that, because it's hard work. Someone's had to take a personal risk, a guarantee, or whatever it is to get that moving.
Well, I think you look at the numbers. I mean, you look at the numbers just last year, the last rolling 12 months, it's 700 and something thousand businesses started, and almost 500,000 businesses closed. That's so a lot of businesses close in the first year as well because of these things. So hopefully, if people just give this a bit of thought up front. And I suppose the other thing, adding on to your sort of point about it's you need to give it time. We're all living longer. This is one of the key underpinning things of Your Body Means Business, is that we can age backwards. This is not necessarily about aesthetics and how we look, but actually internally our biology can be improved and biohacked to the point where we can at least stay where we are in terms of sort of the aging of our body, and we can certainly go backwards. And the theory and the science now is saying that we ought to, accidents and illnesses aside, be able to live to 156, can you believe? And, all the cutting edge scientists are concluding on this. So if that's the case, that means we're going to have a bloody long time to run some businesses. And it means, therefore, that we can all sort of take our time and calm down a bit. We don't have to be in this massive rush of attracting investment just this year. And it might take 5 or 7 or 10 years. And, like I'm 58, I might have another at least 50 years. I don't know about you, Ollie, you're about 20, 21, I guess. So, the same with you, you'll have about another 100 or so years left. So there's many businesses. And I suppose maybe we could end on that point, is you can do a lot of different businesses. You can jump from industry to industry to industry.
I can't believe you're 58. You just shocked me.
59's, in the summer. And you can do so much with your body, and your sort of hold back aging, and I'm stronger and fitter than I've ever been. And it's just by doing sort of the basics that we all know to do, but having the mindset to be consistent, and then and staying calm. And when you stay calm, you can do a lot of things business wise. And you've done that because you have moved, radically different industries. So maybe we'll just finish off on that, because you had the business that you ran for quite a length of time, and you built it and you exited it very successfully. And, it was sort of the innovative type business. And now you've got this group Startup to Stand Up, which is very helpful, sort of peer group opportunity for anybody who needs that, who's starting up their business. But you've also got this R&D business as well, haven't you?
Yeah, and the R&D business and Start to Stand Up is all looking at my career as an entrepreneur and thinking, well, I could have done with a Startup to Stand Up. It's about giving back. And the R&D business is the same. It's because I think the stat is that something like 4 in 10 business owners don't know anything about R&D tax benefits, tax credits. And when they do know, they think to themselves, we haven't got a laboratory, we don't run around in white coats, we're not producing a COVID vaccine, so we won't qualify. But it's amazing how much there is, how many businesses who could qualify don't claim. So we have a lot of delight when we go into businesses and we go, you know, you are eligible and there's some value there. And that's what that always puts a smile on my face, and I love it. You know.
And then what this demonstrates is the government does need innovation. It
Absolutely.
needs innovative businesses. It needs entrepreneurs. It encourages all of this activity. So I suppose that's how we could end it. Really, is that, you know, if you feel that there is half a chance that you've got an idea and you can make it work, and you really care about making it work, and you care about the potential clients that you might have, and you think that you can give an opportunity to other people to come along for the ride with you, then I would definitely say go for it. There's obviously loads of challenges, and Ollie and I decided that we wouldn't do a miserable, you know, tier 4, oh my God, this can go wrong and that can go wrong. But suffice to say, of course it can. Of course it can, you know, but you have to stay, I think, physically and mentally strong. That's
why you've created Your Body Means Business.
Exactly.
Peer-to-peer business groups.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a member of Vistage now since 2016, 5 years. And I've worked out that my return on investment over the years has been 10 times.
Well, my brother Paul says the same. He says, you know, he's really had so much benefit from it, because, you know, you just have this sounding board, and sometimes you can come away with great ideas. Other times you come away thinking, oh, well, maybe I do know what I'm talking about there, you know. So it can reassure you, can't it?
Think of our group sessions, Angela, that start to stand up, where you may have 10 people in the room, and you've got business owners of varying different degrees of maturity. Some have just started their businesses, some have been running 5 years, some may be older than 15 years' time, but need to find a refocus, recalibrate.
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there, and you've got me, Gary, who's got lots of experience with tech startups. Harry is obviously...
Harry on last week. I have to get Harry on soon.
Yeah, Harry, this. And they raise a question which, you know, is really significant. It's been bearing down on them, and it's involving their business or their staff or cash flow or marketing. And you've got someone sitting 2 down from them who goes, look, I did this 3 years ago. I had the same issue. This is what we did. This is the results. This is how it worked. And guess what? If you want to have an offline chat after, and I can come and sit down with them, we can work through it. That's what happens. And that's really, really important. And, you know, I look back in our first 7 years we spoke about a minute ago. That 7th year was really tough. If I had belonged to a peer-to-peer business group at that stage, it would have helped. It would have helped break that resistance wall down quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's cathartic. You see, the best thing for me, and Harry and Gary will share this with you, Angela, is someone comes with an issue like that, and then 3 months later they come back, or they might ring you and say, Ollie, you know, we had start to stand up. We had that board meeting, and I raised that issue, and everyone come up with these different ideas. Harry took the points down, and he said, these are your points of action. This is what you got to do. What are you going to do about it? And, you know, all of this. So there's like, it's accountable. You're going to be accountable for putting these improvements or these implementations into place. And they come back and it's worked. Something that could have, you know, killed their businesses or really, really held them up. It's worked. And that for me, and I'm you're seeing that as well with your Body Means Business. It's fantastic. That's a big plus for us.
Yeah. Well, you know, basically on that note, then that's the other thing I would say. No problem is an insurmountable problem, and
problem shared.
Yeah, problem shared, and so that's been really so helpful. Thanks, Ollie. You know, and I think the other thing that, you know, when you talk, it sort of makes it clear that, you know, there's no sort of big secret into how to be successful in business. It's all the things that we've heard, but you bring them all together, you do it consistently, you have your peer group and people that you can trust, that you can ask questions of. That's what you provide with Startup to Stand Up, and you've sort of used it in different ways to help other organisations. You can help anybody who's interested. We'll post the link here. And from my perspective, you know, I think that to really help you in your business as well, you've got to get your fundamentals right. You know, I talk about mindset, but really there's a series of exercises that I call the emotional gym. So I like to teach those. I like to teach people to be physically fit. And then we give them a sort of a blueprint for business. So the sorts of services that Ollie and I offer will give you an absolute head start. If you're starting a business from scratch, if you're, you know, like you said, if you've got one that maybe is plateauing, or you've got to change because of what's happened, then either of us can help you. We can both help you. We'll put the links in. But for now, thanks so much, Ollie. I really appreciated talking to you. You're always great to talk to. I'm glad you got the memo about the tied up scarf around the neck, that we all look matching. So that was good. And
made sure that was the first thing I did this morning.
Absolutely, yeah. So no, great to see you, and have a lovely. So give your team a plug in the background. Who's that then? Who's the football team?
That's, England. That's an England jersey from around 2012, 2013.
Nice.
I think there's 7 signatures on there, of which I can only recognise 3: Stephen Gerrard, Ashley Cole, and I think Fred Lampard's.
Nice. Well. Yeah.
There's an Arsenal one there from about the same period. So,
okay, so an Arsenal fan. I thought you were. I could see it was red. Yeah. All right, brilliant. Well, have a lovely weekend. Anybody who's got any questions, you'll be able to find Ollie on LinkedIn, so you can follow up with him, I'm sure, and ask him some questions. Join his group if you want to, and you'll see the link to YBMB as well. So with that, take care.
Thanks, Amy.